Hi, it's Owlbear and welcome to Nypsy Does Honor Mode episode 6. And in the last episode I was showing you I've just unlocked the Goblin Camp, the external part of the building, not inside. I don't go inside yet. And yeah, I did also go to the cave behind the waterfall. This is a really good location where you get some fun items, silly bits of poetry, love letters to Minthara, which are just hilarious. The little touches, the little stuff that you can find is, I just think, some of the most fun bits of this game. I think the locations, the thought, the care that's gone into some of the locations, the way they've built some of the locations, the absolute silly background stories about things and people you can unlock is great, and is an incredible part of what makes Baldur's Gate so special and so much fun. And then I went back to camp to rest. I finally called it a day and went back to have a rest, which, yeah, it wasn't really the most restful night, what with Lizelle threatening to cut my throat because I was on the turn, and then my first meeting with the Guardian. Yeah, so that happened. That was a storyline part that progressed. That progresses as you take more and more long rests. One of the things loads of people do it. I see it all the time where people try and cram as much in and they don't long rest very often. But the amount of food on offer, you could long rest I could long rest double the amount of time I long rest easily. If you get a Wacking's Rest, it's full of food. So, you know, there's tons of food, tons of options, and you can play it slower. Or, you know, you don't have to try and cram everything in like every day. If you plan for like 2 or 3 fights a day and like ration your spells and that with that in mind, you know, you can easily just long rest more often. But yeah, in the roleplay game, you get kind of forced into certain situations where like time's precious and you can't long rest. But honestly, in Baldur's Gate, once you've got cargo to not do anything to the Druid camp, you can take as long as you like. Act 1 won't really go anywhere while you're messing around. Now, as I had long rested, this did progress the storyline with the Owlbear. So I returned to the Owlbear cave and found, you know, that the goblins had been there. I'd already progressed the storyline with Shadowheart from the shrine, and this is just returning now to the scene of the crime, where your companions are shocked to find that the Owlbear has been killed by goblins. Fair play to her, she takes a fair amount of them with her, but it's a shame that's not reflected in the numbers at the goblin camp, but there we go. And I've got to retrieve the other half of the spear from her head. This is actually a really good throwing spear. I know it's a spear, so you stab it, but I give it to Karlach as a thrower because it's really good at throwing at spiders and it's really good at throwing at beholders. So, you know, anything with multiple eyes. Then I mostly spent the day, you know, killing the doggies. These are actually really hard. Gnolls are a pretty nasty creature to run into in D&D. And they are in Baldur's Gate 3. When they get all frenzied up and start firing 3 arrows a turn, they can really pump out some damage. So these fights are ones that I am taking on early, and I was a little bit concerned about. I wouldn't say I was a lot concerned about it, but I was a little bit concerned about it. You know, I've got my new Illithid powers where I can grab myself some crits and stuff for free. But I'm not going to go too crazy with the Illithid powers. I don't like the way your character looks when you do the Illithid powers with the eyes and all the rest of it. But yeah, I don't fancy that for me. And I don't particularly want to persuade the girls into doing it either. Karlach's just generally going to be my beat stick for these fights, backed up by Lizelle. And to be honest, the 2 fighters supported by a bard and a cleric can do an awful lot of damage. So I figured I would split the party here, which is again, in classical roleplay terms, you never split the party. No. That is like the worst thing in the world to do. But I thought I would send 2 round the outside and do some dashing, and send 2 up to battle the newborns. The idea is this is because otherwise those archers will sit on the high ground and do me some serious damage. Also, it's just handy that things are lying on the floor, which means they automatically fail their dexterity saving throw, which is handy when you're crap with your spells. But yeah, I mean, I could have killed that one before it ran up top, but I was like, no, I'll let them get in between and then, you know, run up here from the back way. I was trying something new. I hadn't tried it before as a plan, but I had the fight where all 4 of my characters are on the low ground, and I do take an awful lot of damage, so I thought it was worth a try. Also, by doing the split this way, it means most of the focus of fire is probably going to be Karlach, who has the hit points to tank it. Absolutely not a problem. When she's raging, she's fine to take a lot of piercing and archery damage, not too much of a worry. She's an absolute beat stick, so that's fine. And Lizelle, yeah, Lizelle's not the best archer in the game, so high ground's probably a good idea to get her into the high ground to mitigate the fact that her attack roll's not the best. And like I say, Shadowheart, she's perfectly fine at just clearing out the odd little bits here and there and backing Karlach up. And putting her with Karlach like this, she's got a decent enough armor class, she's going to survive. And yeah, I always have Sanctuary in my back pocket if I want to not have them target her too much. But here they come, the ones from down the hill, and as you can see, while they're going down the hill, I'm going up and round, so I will be behind them soon. This is my first time trying this. My normal strategy is kill the one hyena that runs before it gets up to deliver the message. Get your ranged people to take that one out, and then storm the hill as best you can. But then usually one of my characters gets taken out by the bows. When they can do 3 shots in a turn, it gets very brutal. Whereas this way, I'm kind of, you know, forcing or limiting who they can shoot at, which I think is a huge advantage. And you know, now Lizelle's above them, we can look at special arrows, and yeah, why not try and put some damage out, disrupt them, cause some chaos, you know. And I think that's just a really good use of the high ground behind them. And all in all, this fight went a lot easier than I was expecting, because this is, no word of a lie, this can be one of the tougher fights early on, because any character that has multiple attacks is quite dangerous to deal with. So, you know, I thought this was quite good use of these characters coming up from behind. And you know, she's reasonably a heavy hitter with that heavy crossbow, and you know, Shadowheart can run up behind. You know, the good thing is I've got Shadowheart's build up pretty well at the moment. She gives out the bless straight away. I need to get the refugee situation resolved so she can get blade warding added onto that, because that's really good. But yeah, now they've actually had to adjust to the flank as well, and now rather than shooting downhill onto my characters below, these archers are now shooting uphill onto the people above, which suits me down to the ground. That's way better for me, because archers with advantage are dangerous, and if I can kill them before they start doing the 3 bolts in a turn, I'll be a very happy person. You know, it is odd because I'm watching this back. I played this weeks ago. I've actually found I've never done a Let's Play series before on YouTube, and I've got to say, with my limited hard drive space and the way I make my videos, I've had to slow down playing the game because I was running out of hard drive space to store the footage on. So I'm hoping where I clear out a load of this into videos, I can then delete the raw footage it's made from and move on and do the next batch. So this, yeah, I am currently looking at storage solutions to assist my my plans for this series going forward. But you know, I'm saying that, and I could die in the next fight. You never know. In doing honor mode, you know, I've played it. I've completed the game multiple times in Tactician. I've never played it in honor mode, and I know that with patch 7 they put in a lot of legendary actions and increased the difficulty of a lot of things. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But certainly, you know, using sensible tactics and keeping the party alive, I'm hoping that I'm going to be in good shape going forward. Nypsy is not the most damaging of characters in the game, certainly not. So, I am going to have to rely heavily on Karlach and Lae'zel doing the damage and getting the support they need from the other two characters. But this fight went a lot easier than I thought it would. The next fight is the one that I'm really concerned about, but we're actually got to level up and then we'll be around doing that one after we've looted. This was a fight I was kind of dreading because this one's tough, especially like I say, because I'm doing it, the sequences in which I'm doing it quite early. I don't know why the Arrow of Darkness just didn't work out for me. I thought it would put a bigger area of darkness down and maybe block line of sight for the archers for a bit, because it's really weird this fight. The gnoll runs up and it initiates conversation, and then you basically try and persuade her to join your side and fight against the other gnolls. That's the most sensible way of doing this fight. I mean, the really dumb way of doing this fight is just try and kill everything. But I don't want to persuade. The problem is I don't want to persuade the gnolls to go and attack the Zents, because I don't want to kill the Zents. That's mean. Which means it's a harder check to try and convince her to attack her own guys. And I'm probably going to end up having to fight everything. So I was literally like, well, I might as well just see what happens and go for it from there. But again, gnolls, triple arrow shots from high ground can be incredibly lethal. In general, gnolls are very nasty to deal with. I did take a level in Wizard, so I've now got a familiar as well. So I'm Bard Wizard. I'm using the headband to give myself the intellect 17, which makes my wizard powers pretty decent, as on par with my bardic abilities. And does mean I lose out on a feat in the grand scheme of things, because I'm going to go level 10 Bard, level 2 Wizard, which means I get the second lot of magic secrets from being a Bard. However, I lose the feat, but I gain the Wizard Divination Wizard ability for Portents. Ultimately, the loss in one feat for the 2 levels, the benefits I gain for 2 levels in Wizard, I think are worth it. Just the variety of cantrips and boosting spells it gives me access to, and it just really helps the build out slightly to be a proper good little spellcaster that just does her thing, drops out some spells. I will be looking to add magic items later on that give me more utility, where I can make an attack followed by a spell and stuff like that. But Act 1, all the other builds I want are actually coming together way quicker than the one I want for myself. But that's because I'm dependent on some fairly juicy magic items in later acts. The robes that allow you to add your spell casting modifier onto your damage, that sort of thing, that doesn't come till later. But it's not vital to make my build work, because my build is just mostly about support, so it's quite handy. Something that a bard just does very well, just from their spell list and their bardic inspirations. As you move up levels, it will get more powerful, be able to put some damage. But the idea of the bard is, well, this type of bard is not really to be a damage dealer, but more a facilitator for the likes of Karlach and Lae'zel. There is a balancing act, which is trying to reserve enough of your big spells and big abilities till later in the fight, when so you don't run out, and also trying to kill as much as possible to limit the amount of actions they've got coming back at you. You never want to go totally Nova unless you know it's the only fight you're going in that day. So as a spellcaster especially, you don't want to just rinse through your spells very, very quickly. So you need to decide that balance between throwing out a lot of damage, throwing out a lot of control spells, and also not doing stuff and relying on your base attacks to do the work. I think in this fight I used up Lae'zel's specialist dice too quickly, but it worked out for the most part. I was disappointed one of my characters did end up dying, but it was kind of partly my own fault, because I got very aggressive in this fight and I ended up taking on most of the gnolls myself. Like allowing the fight to start early, not waiting for the nod to connect with my character and forcing her to do most of the work. As you can see here, I'm still like doing a lot of damage to these guys, and I generally do most of the work. Unfortunately for me, they don't manage to do a lot of damage to her, which puts me in it's puts me in a position, but at least having her switch to my side delayed her for a while, and she did put a lot of damage for me. That Knoll is a savage beat stick. With the frail that makes you paralysed, the madness, the various things that creature does, it's brutal. So, I think it's more important to gain a positional advantage than it is to harvest that Knoll for every kill. I think ultimately a positional advantage is kind of crucial and works out really, really well in the long term. It's much better to have a good, strong position rather than rely on her to do all the damage and work for you. The one thing in Baldur's Gate 3 and in D&D is that healing is ultimately not that effective. It's not that great compared to the amount of damage. So it forces you to play aggressive, to really maximize how much damage you're doing, do as much damage as possible, really hit hard and hit fast. And it's kind of the way the game is structured. I don't think it was a deliberate thing in the game design, but the way they did it with D&D is healing is a lot weaker than attacking, so you're better off trying to kill them rather than trying to take rounds off to run away and heal. Now obviously you should be healing when you need to, and luckily I've got two characters in my party that can heal, so that's actually a real benefit, because ultimately you want to actually just wait until the person's nearly down before you want them to go down and then heal them back up, because it's a really weird situation where if they're going to take a 20 hit point hit and they've got 10 hit points, there's no point in healing them 7 or 8 hit points. You may as well let them take the hit, then bring them back up. That's why Healing Word is my favourite healing spell, because it is a bonus action, so action economy is really important. And B, you can just do enough to bring them back up, and that's really all you need to do, is to stop people dying. Unfortunately for me in this fight, because this Knoll is such a savage and a mental, it decides to just focus on and kill Lizelle, even though it takes Lizelle out, and beats her up. I did try and heal her just to put her beyond, I thought one hit maybe death, but I should have, could have, would have, should have. Ultimately, I don't think I did much wrong. I don't think the fight went too badly for me. It's just one of those things. Lizelle got absolutely waffled by a monster that is, at this level, pretty damn damaging and pretty damn effective. So I'm not going to complain too much. One thing I did do here that was a mistake is I didn't realise that Shadowheart and the Raven hadn't been called into this, because this counts as a new fight. Now we've killed all her followers and we're down to just her. It's rolled a new initiative order, and I should have really done more to get Shadowheart into that initiative order as quickly as possible. But ultimately I don't think it had a massive effect on what happened. I mean, I have had on mode playthroughs die at this point in the past, because the role's been cursed and I haven't managed to persuade her to join my side, and suddenly you're facing all of them. It can get very, very dicey, and like I say, with the hill and the archers being able to shoot 3 arrows in a turn, they can take out stuff really quickly. So it can be one of those fights. In the first act, I mean, there's some fights that can just be really, really dangerous. Some opponents that can be really nasty, like the spider, for example, in the Blighted Village. It's not a hugely difficult fight, but it can easily kill one of your characters off, if not two. It's one of those fights where the bad guy has an ability that just does so much. With this fight, she's so lethal because she paralyzes and then pommels, and because of the amount of frenzied damage she's doing from her madness, it can be quite nasty. As you can see, Lizelle's absolutely beating there, and I mean, I'm whittling her down. She is dying, but You know, she takes an awful lot of hit points to kill. The Paladin's a tier, another example. It's always dangerous when you're fighting an enemy that can pretty much kill you in one round. And there are 3 or 4 enemies in the first act that can do that. They don't very often, but they can. And when one of your characters dies in a turn, it can make a big impact on the rest of the fight. It can really swing the momentum of the fight, because it basically removes all of your attacks from that character off the board. And yeah, it's all about number of actions. Here, though, I decided I'd try and heal with, and I thought, well, I got level 2 magic missile. I'll pump as much damage in as possible as soon as possible. Now, at this point, I kind of realised Lizelle was dead, depending on what I did with Shadowheart. So I went for something that might have saved her. I probably should have gone with the Preserved Life, but with Karlach being out of it, the reason I was doing it was as much to provide bless to the other 2 as possible. So I went for a command to try and, make the Gnoll miss a turn, but unfortunately that didn't work for me. I thought it was a worthy effort. Had I got the Gnoll to miss a turn, then Lizelle would have survived this fight. But as it is, she went down. But she went down swinging as Lizelle would want to go, and as long as we don't all die, it's fine. It's a minor annoyance, but I'm already up tons of the scrolls, so it's no biggie. Now, given Karlach's abilities are better at throwing than hitting, I decided to go with push the Gnoll off the hill and throw weapons at it. And it's getting close to death, and I'm hoping between this hit and a couple of crossbow bolts it will be finished off. That was the plan, and it pretty much worked out. Unfortunately, this did mean Karlach was then in the position to get into the dialogue with the surviving Zents, which wasn't ideal, but it is what it is. I was planning on letting the Zents keep their cargo and everything this run through. I'm going to try and be nicer to them until I've been down there and used it as my route to the Underdark. And then I finally decided to just do an act of kindness by bashing these 2 brothers over the head and knocking them out. Annoyingly, this is one of the best ways of keeping them from harm. Bash them over the head, knock them out, then you get to tell Marina that you had a fight and knocked them out, and the hag doesn't kill them. So it's the best option is to side with the hag and bash the brothers over the head as an act of kindness. Honestly, it's so bizarre. This game makes you make lots of different moral decisions and moral choices, and sometimes you have to take a really dumb choice if you want the right result, which is kind of crazy, but that's the way it works. And yeah, you can see. Unfortunately, annoyingly, if you throw stuff at people or hit them with arrows, that doesn't count as non-lethal, so you have to get in there and bash them for non-lethal. But I was going to say Lizelle was really good at that, but obviously she is and she isn't. When she hits, she's great at it. When she misses, not so much. But luckily for me, there's plenty of speed in my party to hunt down and whack people. And that's it for this episode. I'm going to finish on an act of kindness as I give the brothers a headache rather than a death sentence. And I'll say that's all. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Let me know how you're getting on with these videos. If you want me to make any tweaks or changes to the way I'm making them, let me know in the comments down below. That's all, and thank you very much for watching.